Hey everyone, Zalimah here once again with another World of Warcraft video. So patch 7.0 has just came out not too long ago, and I had previously made a guide about the Beastmaster Hunter, and I decided I wanted to make one about the other specs as well. Now survival at the moment is performing less than Marksman and Beastmaster, but however, once the Survival Hunter does get their artifact weapon in Legion, they will perform higher. It will perform higher than Marksman, making Survival and Beastmaster better than the Marksman spec. So if you do want to play Survival at the moment, even though it's performing less, just to practice and prepare for Legion, this guide will be helpful for you. So let's just jump straight into it here and look at what abilities that we have. So we have Aspect of the Cheetah here. Increases your movement speed by 90% for 3 seconds, and then by 30% for another 9 seconds. Basically, this only affects you, does not affect your group. So whenever I use it here, I'll run really fast for 3 seconds, and then I'll run 30% faster for another 9 seconds, making that a very useful cooldown to use. Next, you have Aspect of the Eagle. This is one of your major cooldowns. Grants you and your pet 10% increased critical strike chance on all abilities, and increases your chance to gain charges of Mongoose Bite by 100%, and it lasts 10 seconds. Now, whenever I go over the rotation here in a second, you will see why this is very, very powerful. Next, you have Aspect of the Turtle. Basically, this is deterrence. You take basically reduced damage, and it looks really fucking cool. Then you have Exhilaration, heals you for 30% and your pet for 100% of maximum health. Basically, it's a free heal. It's not a talent anymore, so that's very, very cool. Next, you have Feign Death, says the same thing as on live. Or, I'm so used to playing beta. It's the same thing as before. Then you have Flanking Strike. Flanking Strike is your focus spinner. Basically, you and your pet both attack the target at the same time. Flanking Strike has double the normal chance to trigger Hunting Companion. So basically, I'll go over Hunting Companion here in a second, but this is your focus spinner. So whenever you have nothing else to use on your bar, you use a Flanking Strike. Next, you have Carve. Basically, what you do with Carve is if you have 4 or more targets, instead of casting Flanking Strike, you're going to cast Carve. Basically, Carve is an AoE, but you're only going to use it if there are 4 or more targets. Next, you have Flare. It does the same thing as before. Hits people out of stealth. Then you have Harpoon. Hurls a harpoon at an enemy, rooting them in place for 3 seconds and pulling you to them. So basically, think of this as a reverse Death Grip. Now, you're going to want to get used to this ability. Now, even though right now it does, pretty much no damage and has really no benefit to you, you can just run to the boss, get used to using Harpoon, because your very last elite trait as a survival hunter on your artifact weapon is going to have to do with Harpoon. Basically, whenever you use Harpoon with your artifact weapon, and you have this said trait, it's going to apply a huge bleed on your target, so it's going to be part of your rotation. So just try to get used to using Harpoon, and so that whenever you do have this elite trait, it's not a huge shock to you to have to use this while in combat. Next, you have Raptor Strike, a vicious slash dealing 12,000 physical damage. Basically, this is another focus fender, except for the only difference is it doesn't have a cooldown like Flanking Strike does. Next, you have Hatchet Toss. Tosses a hatchet at an enemy. This is just for whenever you're in a situation where you have to hit something in range, such as farming old raids, like Dragon Soul, and you have to hit the dragons out of the sky. It's just a little range attack. You're really never going to use it during a raid or anything like that. You're just going to have it, just in case you have to hit something that is too far away for you to melee. Then you have your traps. Now, the traps are very, very powerful for Survival Hunter. Survival Hunter is actually the only spec that does get traps. Both Marksman and Beastmaster do not get traps anymore. So basically, you have your standard freezing trap. Does the same thing as it used to do. And then you have your tar trap. Basically, it's a slow on the ground instead of having your frost trap or whatever it used to be called. And then you have explosive trap. Now, explosive trap is going to be a part of your main rotation. It has a shit ton of damage, and it's going to hit all enemies, making this extremely powerful for AoE, and we have talents to buff this ability up, which I'll go over in a second. Next, you have Lacerate. Tears a bleeding wound in the target, dealing 65k physical damage over 12 seconds. Basically, this is just a bleed. You're going to make sure you have this on your target at all times. Then you have Wing Clip. Does the same thing as back in Vanilla or BC. Maims the target, reducing movement speed by 50%. Mongoose Bite. This is the core part of the spec. Now, Mongoose Bite is a core part of the spec, and you really have to try to manage this. If you don't, you're going to lose out on a lot of DPS. Basically, what this does is it attempts to sever a target's limb with a brutal attack that deals 26k physical damage and grants you Mongoose Fury. Now, Mongoose Fury increases Mongoose Bite damage by 50% for 12 seconds, stacking up 6 times. Successive attacks do not increase the duration. So basically, 1 stack of Mongoose Fury will give you 50%, 2 stacks will give you 100%, so on and so forth. So once you get to 6 stacks, you're going to deal a maximum percent of Mongoose Fury. Or Mongoose Bite damage, I should say. Next, you have Muzzle. This is your interrupt for this spec. Pretty good. And next you have your passives. You have Hunting Companion. Your pet's attacks have a 5.8% chance to grant you additional charges of Mongoose Bite. This is your mastery. So this is what your mastery does basically. Gives your pet an extra chance to give you a Mongoose Bite stack or charge. And you have Survivalist. After you kill a target, you and your pet gain 15% health over 10 seconds. Nothing really special there. So now we're going to look at the talents, and then we'll get straight into the rotation here. So, for your talents, this is what's currently on 9/22/2016, the best talents currently available. Now, this could change, but at the recording of this video, this is what's best. So you have Way of the Mok'Nathal. Raptor Strike also grants you Mok'Nathal's tactics, increasing your attack power by 3% for 8 seconds, stacking up 4 times. Mortal Wounds. Each time Lacerate deals damage, you have a 2% chance to gain a charge of Mongoose Bite. So you're going to have extra chance to get a Mongoose Bite stack. Now you can switch this out with Murder of Crows if you so wish. However, I'm currently using Mortal Wounds just so I have that extra chance, considering Lacerate is going to be on your target constantly. Next I went with Post Haste. I always just go with Post Haste. You can choose whatever one you want on this line. It's really up to you. Then I went with Improved Traps. Reduces the cooldown of Freezing Trap by 15% and the cooldown of Explosive Trap and Tar Trap by 50%. The key word in that one is Explosive Trap. 50% reduced cooldown on Explosive Trap. That means your AoE is going to be extremely more powerful, and since you're going to be part of your main rotation, you're going to apply this to your target every time it's off cooldown. That makes it just even that much better. Next I went Camouflage because I just like Camouflage. However, you can choose anything on this line you want as well. It's not going to affect your DPS whatsoever. Then I went with Dragonfire Grenade. Hurls a Dragonfire Grenade at the target that explodes into flames, inflicting 87k fire damage over 8 seconds, and reduces movement speed by 20%. The volatile flames of the target also scorch nearby enemies for 10,000 damage every 1 second. So basically how this works is you're going to choose Dragonfire Grenade for single target, and you're going to choose Butchery for multi-target. Multi-target replaces Carve, strike all nearby enemies in a flurry of strikes, inflicting 32k physical damage to each enemy. It does have a 13-second recharge, but basically, if you're about to go to a heavy AoE boss, you're going to choose Butchery. Single target, you're going to choose Dragonfire Grenade, or you could even go with Serpent Sting if you so wish. And for the last line here, I chose Expert Trapper. Basically, I'm not going to read all of this, but the main one here is Explosive Trap. Increases explosive trap's damage to the triggering enemy by 75%, making explosive trap extremely powerful for single target. If you do not have this, explosive trap will deal way less damage, and it won't be as good in a single target situation. So currently, this is the setup that you have. You can switch things around if you want, if you so wish, but this is currently what is the best at the moment. So now we're going to get into the rotation of the spec. So the rotation of the spec it's not too complicated, but since it's new, it's going to be maybe a little bit confusing at first, but this is how it pretty much works. So whenever you first get to a boss, let's pretend this target dummy here is the boss that we are about to fight. What you're going to do is you're going to start off with Explosive Trap. So you're going to throw your Explosive Trap, you just press your Explosive Trap button and it's going to throw the trap at the target. You don't have to click it anywhere. It's not going to drop under your feet. It will throw it at your target now, so you don't have to worry about misplacing it or anything like that. As you see, I just press E there, and it throws it at my target for me. Well, it messed up and rip, but you get the idea. And I guess I wasn't a clicking target, but whatever. So then what you're going to do, if you have Dragonfire Grenade chosen as a talent, you're then going to use Dragonfire Grenade. So Explosive Trap, Dragonfire Grenade. So you're going to have both of those applied to the target. Next, you're going to use Raptor Strike to refresh Way of the Mok'Nathal. Basically, Way of the Mok'Nathal is that talent that we chose earlier that's going to increase our attack power. So this is going to stack up 4 times, giving us 12% increased attack power. Now, once we have our Mok'Nathal stacks up, we are going to apply Lacerate. This is our bleed, so we're going to make sure we have our bleed applied to the target here. Then we're going to get Mongoose Bite up to 3 stacks. Now, as you can see, Mongoose Bite has 3 charges, so we're going to apply all 3 to the target, so we have 3 stacks of Mongoose Bite. Now, once we have our Mongoose Bite stacks, we're going to use our Aspect of the Eagle. Aspect of the Eagle is going to grant you and your pet 10% increased critical strike on all abilities and increases the chance to gain charges of Mongoose Bite by 100%. Now, since we applied all 3 to our target, as you see, we don't have any more charges, so we're going to use that so we can try to get some more charges while we repeat our rotation. So that's kind of the rotation. So a quick summary of that again is you're going to use your Explosive Trap, use your Dragonfire Grenade, make sure you get your Mok'Nathal stacks up to 4. Once your Mok'Nathal stacks are up to 4, you're going to apply the Lacerate, spam your Mongoose Strikes, and then once your Mongoose Strikes are down, you're going to use Flanking Strike if you have enough focus for it, and if you don't have enough focus for it, you're going to use Raptor Strike. So as you see, it is a pretty simple rotation, really. Just make sure that you're using your Explosive Trap and Dragonfire Grenade on cooldown. Then you're going to get your Mok'Nathal stacks up to 4. Use your Lacerate. Then use all of your Mongoose Bite stacks. And you're going to use Flanking Strike after you do all that. So very, very simple rotation. Now, during an AoE combat, or an AoE boss or something of that nature, basically instead of using Flanking Strikes, if you have 4 more targets, you're going to use Butchery, that talent that we chose, and if you don't have Butchery chose, you're going to use Carve. And that's pretty much it, guys. So it's actually a really simple rotation. The entire spec kind of revolves around your Mongoose Bite stacks and your Mok'Nathal stacks if you have that talent chosen. But as you see, it's a very simple rotation. It's pretty good for AoE. It has a good mix of AoE and single target, and it's really going to shine once Legion releases. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know this one was sort of long, but since this is a new class, I kind of had to go more into detail than I normally would. Anyways, guys, I will see you in the next one. Have a good day.